That wasn't rehearsed at all.
No, it absolutely wasn't. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'll get the beer off the mic. There we go. Right, welcome back to Amiable Arguments. As you can hear, I have not one, but two other voices other than mine right now. And that is because, for the first time ever, I actually have my guest in studio with me. As much as this can be called a studio, it's not exactly the Joe Rogan experience in here, but nonetheless, it's very cushy.
It's not.
It's the claustrophobic experience,
it was nice
really.
seeing you guys. I'm out.
It's the claustrophobic experience, really, more than anything. But nonetheless, we're here, we have a topic, and we're going to talk to you today. So first we'll start with introductions. So,
hi, my name is Billy. I'm some guy who lives in London. That's pretty much the extent of it.
That I've literally only just met when he came into my house earlier on today, invited by this gentleman here.
Hello, I'm Joshua. I'm also just another young man. Yeah.
He's so modest.
You're not that young, dude.
No, he's been very modest. He's very old.
Yeah, I'm sort
37, I think.
Lads, I'm in my 50s now.
Well, you hide it well.
Got my freedom pass from Sadiq.
Oh, God. Actually, Josh is the mayor of London. It should be known. Anyway, right. Today, we are going to be talking about digital technology in the modern day, aren't we? That's what we've sort of collaboratively decided to talk about.
The agreed upon topic.
Yes.
So I've been thinking a lot recently. Obviously, like everyone, I've had a lot of free time on my hands over like the past 2 years. Some sort of pan event. I don't know. I don't read the news. And I watched Bo Burnham's Inside. And obviously that got me into just checking out interviews with him and stuff. And he talks about in an interview when he was promoting 8th grade, how he relates a lot more now to like a teenager in a movie or just in general now than he does someone his own age from like something made in like the 80s.
Right.
Because the kind of thoughts people are having now are so fundamentally different from the thoughts and values and worries people were having 20 or 30 years ago that it's hard to relate back to that sort of thing. I'm not sure I entirely agree with that assessment. Not that I'm Mr. Burnham myself, but I totally get where he's coming from. This idea of that if I watch something now which was made, before my time, and people talk about stuff in it where, like, like popularity stuff in like a high school movie, for example. People, obviously, I'm not a high schooler, but it's like even when I was in high school, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? Like this doesn't mean anything. This is nonsense. I've been completely removed from that set of context.
Yes.
So to speak.
I suppose, sort of upon his point, is the idea, though, that maybe he can only speak for himself, because I suppose you think about where he says, oh, you don't know, you don't have the same values. It's like, well, maybe you don't, but other people might. And so they might have a more, I don't know, traditional value that they feel more akin to with 40 years ago or whatever it may be.
It's what you call terminally online. When people become so invested with the, I don't want to say fake world, because it's not quite a fake world, but the world of user-generated content on the internet.
It's very easy to just end up on your phone for a long time and not be conscious at all.
You see it day in, day out.
That's the world we live in, especially more so in the West. I mean, I was listening to something else on Joe Rogan. I can't remember who the fuck was. Sorry.
Who's a bit more minor a podcaster than I am.
He's a little bit smaller than this one. He's kind of just starting out, that kid. But they were talking about how the Chinese just have different versions of their apps. And things are limited. So the time, and also social media has hours it's open and hours it's closed. And that's locked to the time zones you're in.
I think that's a lot healthier than what we've got over here.
But it demonstrates two very, if it is true, which I've not looked into it myself, but of course I take your word for it. But it demonstrates
I'm having to take this guy's word for it. I don't really know any Chinese people, so I can't speak for the truth. But yeah,
The truth.
God, yeah.
You can't speak Chinese and you can't speak for Chinese people.
I can't do either of those things.
Right, well.
Yeah. Other than say, we like Taiwan.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we
Absolutely,
do, yeah.
unashamedly. We
Hello to
support
any
Taiwan.
Taiwanese brothers out there. What's up?
Solidarity.
Yeah.
John Cena isn't even a good wrestler.
Got him. There we are. It's like, oh no, Billy from Amiable Arguments has been dissing me. No, what I was going to say
What's he going to do? He can't fight.
What I was going to say though was that it demonstrates two totally different outlooks on how society should work.
Yeah.
In the West, it's very much, well, we have this invention, we have this app, and people should be free to use it at their leisure, even if it is, because it's a very liberal framework of governing the world. It's very live and let live, and it's, well, people are entitled to do these things that might destroy the soul. Whereas... well, that's basically that is the thing though. That is, people should be free to make their own ethical decisions.
You could eat oven chips forever.
Yes, whereas in China, they have and I don't throw this word around lightly, but it is a more fascist way of governing. A state has a particular ethical practice and a particular ethical view of how society should be governed, and therefore the citizens have to abide by it. So if the government think, well, this app would be very damaging to them, then they will change the app and they will force it to mold society into what they think it should be.
On the subject of like China and stuff, have you read the series The Three Body Problem?
No.
I'm not even going to attempt the author's name. I'll save myself some.
Is this some Russian dude?
Yeah. And
we knew it.
Yeah.
So it's a very popular Chinese science fiction series, and Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg have both said they love it. I have read the first one. I quite liked it. But what I find really interesting is how the story is about mankind uniting and fighting against an alien threat. Massively oversimplified, but that's the basic gist of it.
It sounds very Independence Day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's that, but with more like hard sci-fi elements to it. It gets really mad, actually, in how in-depth it gets with some of the more out-there concepts. But the author has publicly stated that China can never work with the Uyghurs, for example. And I just find that really interesting, because it's like, we don't know if he's
What does he mean by that? Does he mean they refuse to, or they just...
Well, the Uyghurs are
they're incompatible.
They're incompatible with that. So he's written a story where all of humanity unites to fight a alien threat.
Yeah.
But in the real world, it's like, oh no, these guys, no, we can't work with them.
In the real world, people are tribal and stupid.
But this is my point is like, is he saying that because he will be, disappeared if he says otherwise, or does he sincerely believe that? And we've no way of actually knowing.
So he's a Chinese author, isn't he?
Yes, he is a Chinese author.
Actually, that sort of leads me on to no way of knowing, because now we've sort of gotten to... I was having this conversation the other day with a friend on the subject of digital technology, that you see it a lot now, particularly since COVID. It's really ramped up, hasn't it? If you view a post that is in any way of a political or of a social nature, there will be a fact check under it, and they will tell you whether it is true or false by their own independent, verified fact checkers who do all these sorts of things.
Who watches The Watchmen?
But yeah, it's like, well, I don't know you. I don't know that you have my best interests at heart. You tell me you do. You tell me that you're the impartial fact checker, but who would we honestly trust to hold that sort of power?
I think it's going to be an AI. I sincerely believe...
It has to be an AI. If you mention anything, whether it's pro or vaguely anti any measure to do with the COVID stuff, there will be a little COVID warning, being like, this involves information about
obviously,
COVID, even if it's a meme.
It's an algorithm
detecting
that.
something, yeah.
I'm saying, like, I sincerely believe, through my total non-expertise opinion...
You'll be hearing that a lot on this podcast.
That over the course of our lifetime, we're going to see more and more power essentially given to non-human entities, which can make quote-unquote impartial decisions, but they are in fact programmed by people who can't make impartial decisions. So I think that's where we're going long-term.
It feels very, and I know the term gets thrown around a lot these days, but it feels very Orwell's Ministry of Truth, doesn't it, though? It's like, well, the truth is what the party decides. Not that we obviously have one.
I hate to speak like this, but it is just so abundantly that to even point it out, people just sort of sigh at you, don't they? Because it's such a... Like, talking about George Orwell in life now is a bit like saying Nirvana are a good rock band, aren't they? Like, it's just so overstated and just sort of...
I guess you could say it's a bit Orwellian.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
Zing!
Kafka-esque.
Got it. They're all in there now. But doesn't it appear to be the case?
I mean, it just is the case. It's just not as savage as
But like the whole
1984,
idea
but-
with like Orwell's vision of the future is constant surveillance from the state on every individual, right?
Yeah.
I think we've actually gone in the complete opposite direction, where the means for constant surveillance are there, but there's so much information out there, and so much more can be read from, you know...
The main difference is that people survey themselves. Like, all of the tools are disguised as this fun thing you can interact with. Whereas in 1984, it's the state having this ominous presence forced upon you, but instead it's just we have phones that do that.
Well, that's more...
We do it on behalf of the people who are bad.
That's more Huxley, isn't it, then? This
Yeah.
whole idea...
A Brave New World.
Yeah. The idea that we take part in our own oppression because it's convenient and it is fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, Brave New World makes you cringe because you go, oh yeah, there are people who just sort of are conditioned to think I'm this person, so I will remain this person. And it starts from, it's just so, and when you read it, you just kind of go,
Have you guys played Metal Gear Solid 2?
I have not.
Right, well, this is relevant, I promise.
To digital technology.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Great.
It is. I'm just going to spoil the whole game at this point. So, spoilers for like a 13-year-old game.
I'm in my 50s, I don't know what he's talking about.
Right,
right
yeah.
now.
It's like Pac-Man, but faster. And so, in that game, it's revealed that all the events of the game are actually a simulation being relayed to the protagonist because they're being manipulated by outside forces, and the outside
Did
forces
this game come out before or after The Matrix?
around the same time, actually. Yeah, it was like 2002, I think. So
Okay.
The Matrix was 2000, so
Yeah.
2 years after.
No, The Matrix was 1999.
Yes.
My mistake.
I know that because
But
I
I
did
am
it at film studies.
I feel like Metal Gear Solid 2 is probably in development around the same time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's like very much in the conscience of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To cut a long story short, the evil AI that's been manipulating the protagonist and also the player basically makes out that the world of Metal Gear Solid exists in a constant state of trite information being produced en masse, and there is no differentiation between what is valuable day to day and what is garbage. So consequently, meaning and context is lost. So the AI is manipulating the protagonist and telling them what to do and lying to them in order to create a state where context can be provided and that a sane or rational society can emerge from it. So it's using authoritarian, oppressive, manipulative tactics to create ostensibly a more fair society and stuff. And it's scary how much the game got right, particularly in its observations of like the early internet in 2002 on the idea of just people arguing about nothing constantly all the time as a, not even as a distraction, but as a replacement for sincere discourse.
Well, it's because everyone's sort of in this really low reactive state instead of, I mean, I'm going to sound like a fucking hippie, but like being like here and
A
present.
flipping
A
hippie.
flipping hippie and being like here and happy and present. Like you just, most people kind of react to things instead of like just taking a step back and just sort of, do you kind of,
Well,
I said half a sentence.
being reactionary is to take a step back, and it's to wait for things to happen and to then react to them.
Yeah,
as
it's having
opposed
things
to...
happen to you instead of you deciding how you're going to behave in the world.
Sure, but I think it's fair to say that most people in the world are reactionaries.
Yeah.
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 They are, and I think they probably always have been, because I think it's a very human feeling to sort of think, oh, well, how much power do I really have? That's human existence. That's what it is. I suppose as well, I know you've already heard me talk about this before this podcast began, but I would like to bring it up for the sake of it being on record here, which is to say that private companies now have developed a tremendous amount of power, particularly in Silicon Valley. I was saying earlier how back in the 1700s, only the probably most powerful company / corporation.
Original colonialism was pioneered by massive fat corporations. And neocolonialism is the same thing.
But even more powerful.
But even scarier.
Because they're getting into your brains now.
Yeah.
But also, the thing is as well, like the East India Trading Company basically privatised India. That's a tremendous amount of power. Yeah. But the East India Trading Company worked and was answerable to one country, Britain. Whereas these corporations now are a global corporation that we've got Facebook and Amazon and...
they have employees in every position in every country.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a lot harder to... Well, who are they accountable to? The world?
Yeah.
To the countries that they act up in, or simply to the place where the base of operations is, which is in Silicon Valley.
But even then, like, these corporations buy up... Like, it gets to, like, even the... Like what was old order thinking, in that they own real estate as well. Like, Amazon owns a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
McDonald's owns lots of important. It's just when you say it out loud, it's kind of mad.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just not believing.
That was the end of my sentence.
No. I'm believing.
It's terrifying. Like, I remember thinking about that in the summer. I was like, working like my summer job, and I was like staring at a McDonald's opposite, and I was like, hang on, there's like one of these everywhere.
The thing is, though, that I think it could be something, for example, the argument of free speech and the censorship.
Yeah.
And they always come back to the same thing, that if you get booted offline, say off YouTube or Facebook or Twitter...
You get deplatformed.
Yeah, you get deplatformed.
Cancelled for keeping it real.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but
Cancelled for being authentic and in the moment.
For living your best life.
Yeah.
But the thing is...
Queen.
Brilliant. Right, more beer. Anyway. No, what I was going to say was just that the whole Twitter thing was that Jack Dorsey, who used to be the CEO of Twitter, was like, oh, well, Twitter is it's a human right. He said it's a human right to be able to be allowed to have a platform on Twitter. And it's like, but by his own argument, then, there should be no tolerance for deplatforming, because that means that you're depriving someone of a human right.
I remember this, and then on Joe Rogan, they had like two people from Twitter on there.
And Tim Pool.
And Tim Pool. And
yeah.
They were like...
Do you think Tim Pool's got like a bunch of wardrobes full of black beanies?
Yes.
No, I think he wears one stinky beanie.
He wakes up every day, because he's got memory loss problems. He wakes up every day and goes, oh yeah, today's beanie day.
Did someone hit him? Is that a fact?
No.
No.
So I thought someone smacked him.
Fact checked wrong.
Yeah.
On Tim Pool's beanies.
I don't think anyone should hit anyone sometimes. Yeah.
Great, very persuasive. Carry on.
Don't hit each other.
Yeah, like Sean Connery is like, no, just go for a slap every now and then. It's like, no, Sean. No, so, but then that comes into the question, doesn't it? Well, if everyone has this platform that they're all using, but it's able to dictate what your rights are on that platform, but the platform in a way is so international that it has more power than the state.
Do you guys use Twitter?
I've never used Twitter, and I never will.
I've got an account. I used to use it a lot more frequently. If I have a really dumb idea, which I know my 5 friends who follow it, I will tweet that, but that is the extent of my interaction with it.
I honestly don't understand why anyone cares or uses Twitter.
Well, it's kind of a joke on Twitter that the only people who care about Twitter are people who are on Twitter. But like, yeah, that is what happens. So are you at all familiar with the tale of Graham Linehan?
Gliner. Is it Liner?
Glinner.
Who wrote
Lynham.
Father Ted?
Yeah, so he's become incredibly transphobic over the last couple of years.
Define transphobic.
He doesn't believe trans people are real and believes it's a mental illness. So...
Which
Damn!
I would like to preface, just, I know that the argument isn't about trans, which is fine, but I will just quickly say that there has to be an acknowledgement, at least, that he is arguing for an opinion that every human being in society probably held until about 10 years ago. This is still a very new discussion that is being had. And for us to say, well, that person doesn't agree with what we all agreed to be true until about 5 minutes ago is a very difficult thing to do in this arena of discussion.
Disagree with the notion that this is something which everyone in the world would have disagreed with until 10 years ago, because trans people have existed for as long as people have existed.
Yes.
In different forms, and I don't think it's right to say everyone would have immediately have held this one monolithic opinion until quite recently.
Okay, forgive me, let me articulate that a bit better then. The general majorative consensus of most Western societies has been this until very recently.
Guys, if I'm honest, if I'm not in London or a big city, when I'm in smaller parts of the UK, I don't think anyone is thinking about it.
They're not.
Yeah. No, I know that.
And probably never have been.
Yeah.
Until very recently. Anyway, but the argument, the debate is not to do with trans. Yeah. So let's push on to censorship.
The point I was making with Lynham or Lynham, I don't know how to pronounce it. Whatever annoys you the most, Graham, I'll say it that way. So he was very terminally online. He would tweet from like 3 o'clock in the morning up until 4 at night. He was like, when he was on Twitter.
That's a good work ethic.
Right. It was pretty incessant, and it got pretty...
See, that just seems like he's been binge watching some YouTube videos, riled himself up, is just not really looking after himself.
Yeah.
And just saying some nonsense.
Yeah, he got really, really way too into it. He was banned quite recently. I say quite recently, about a year and a half ago. And
pretty recent.
More or less recent. And he has basically they started for violating their terms of conduct because he was spreading hate speech, encouraging users to dox people, and
which is bad.
Was he actively doing that?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm not worried about libel because this is all recorded, documented stuff.
Well, if you do libel, I'll be sending them to you and not my podcast.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that.
I will give them your address.
The thing which I find,
and I'll dox you.
Doxing myself to own the libs. Yeah. So the thing I find the most mad about it though is Lynham has he's proclaimed it to losing a seat at the political table, him being kicked off Twitter.
Right.
Essentially, that's his words. He took him being kicked off Twitter to Parliament in front of like a hearing.
Our Parliament.
British.
I'm sorry, but
British
that's just stop being a baby.
Right.
Come on.
So he took that to Parliament, where he basically said that this corporation's acting out of line. They haven't they've essentially silenced me from having a political opinion in this country. Blah blah blah. And government said we're not here to unban you from Twitter. And he ended up talking about how he ended up getting divorced because his wife, Helen Serafonowitz, just like he wouldn't stop posting about how much he hates trans people 24/7, 7 days a week, and how he was mad they kicked him off Twitter. Now, the thing I find most interesting about this is someone who's obviously neurotically obsessed. When do you step in?
What, on a governmental level?
Yeah, like not even on a governmental, on like a personal level. Like he said many times, people tell me to stop, I'm not going to stop. It just makes me want to keep going. But it's like, this is not healthy behavior. Your wife has left you. You don't have work in this country anymore. You're banning off a website to the government, and they're not interested. What's
to bring up another controversial person, but like one thing I definitely agree with them on is that why do you care when Twitter isn't a real place? Like, just do something else. I don't understand why people use Twitter and think it carries any weight at all.
Well, we saw this actually in one of the recent general elections, didn't we? When Labour got absolutely smashed, it was a case of, and this is again the thing that digital technology is, because now so much of our dialogue and communication is done online, as this very podcast is. It sort of comes to a point, doesn't it, where you care so much about what the online opinion is that you forget about the day-to-day, what does the person on the shop floor think about everything. And they certainly fell into that trap, because it was a case of, well, our polling was very good on Twitter, and our views were very popular on Twitter, and all these sorts of things. And as Josh says, yeah, but Twitter isn't the real world.
Twitter isn't the real world.
Twitter isn't the real world.
Oh, I've been scrubbing for apples. That's not Twitter. I got a plastic bag full of them.
Anyway, yeah. So
I'm not sure if I like apples very much.
You should do. They're good.
the green ones are Granny Smith's apples.
Thank you. The green
Fully
ones
endorse.
are so much better than the red
Fully
ones.
endorse them.
I think apples are all right. Okay.
Well, that's the most controversial
That's
opinion.
a very strongly held opinion. Clearly. I think apples are all right. That's the most
there's
tepid
just better fruit.
milk toast
Name
opinion.
3.
Mangoes,
No.
grapes,
Incorrect.
pomegranate seeds.
All bullshit. All bull
They're
honky.
all lovely.
All bull honky.
They're all more
Honky
nutrient dense.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's kill the honkies.
what let's talk about other digital technology then. So
Yeah.
we've sort of just covered briefly the
That we think Twitter's pretty stupid.
yes. Okay, this metaverse thing. Let's talk about this,
Ooh,
because this is
yes.
pretty revolutionary stuff.
Yeah. So, a bit of personal context time.
Please.
Seeing Zuckerberg announce the metaverse was what made me effectively quit social media. I was pretty active up until quite recently. I quit Facebook about a year ago, and
Have you deleted your account?
I haven't deleted my account because I've got it. It's like attached to my Spotify and stuff. So it's like they're still spying on me, but like, you know, whatever.
But at most, they're just going to see that you're really like rock lobster by
They
B52.
really love.
so.
Lads, if you have a phone, they know what you're up to, okay?
Yeah. I mean, you know,
Oh, dear.
come and find me. I'm behind 6 proxies. But
Nice.
Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah. So just seeing Zuckerberg, talk about how they wanted to create, curated content experiences in the real world, and the sort of implication being they wanted this to be the real world and everything else to be the offline world. That was just like the tipping point for me, where I was like, I can't.
Wait, they framed it as this is the real world now.
This is going to be the real world, like VR. There was a term which they referred to non-VR digital stuff, but I can't remember it. But like basically, they said they wanted to get rid of all that and call it MR, mixed reality. So there's going to be mixed reality, and the offline.
I don't know why, but this has just sort of made me resent anyone who's like studying or participates in public relations.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's the Bill Hicks bit where he talks about how if you work in advertising,
Yeah.
just off yourself,
Yeah.
top yourself. Don't think about it. This isn't a joke. Do it. Which this podcast does not necessarily endorse. It's merely sharing a bit that Bill Hicks did in the 90s.
We love Bill Hicks, and if you feel sad, talk to your friends.
As the man whose podcast this actually belongs to,
Yeah.
I endorse that message.
The one about talking to your friends if you're sad.
Yes, talk to your friends if you're sad. Anyway, so the metaverse.
Right, yeah. So do you know who John Carmack is?
No, not at all.
John Carmack is the fella, along with John Romero, who created Doom, the video game.
Oh, yeah.
John Romero made Doom.
Yeah.
The film guy.
No, that's George Romero.
Yeah.
You're getting your Romeros mixed up.
Yeah.
So John Carmack and John Romero, they both made Doom. John Carmack effectively programmed the entire engine himself.
The original Doom.
The original Doom.
Which is, I'm not going to lie, as a spoiled new young man, that's a boring game to play.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to move past that.
Deep offence has been struck on this podcast.
Really, you got to play Quake. That's where it's at. But point is Carmack is a very intelligent man. He can program entire game engines and like operating systems himself. So it's just an insane amount of intelligence. He was the person who brought three-dimensional graphics to video games. Doom is not a 3D game. It just looks that way because John Carmack knows how to work numbers and algorithms.
Okay.
Just an insanely intelligent man. Anyway, he's working for Facebook in their virtual reality department. He joined Oculus in 2015, and Oculus was then bought up by Facebook around that sort of time, I believe.
I don't know why, but that scares. It's just terrifying.
Well, here's the thing. He's one of the good guys because he's like the only member of Facebook who's very, very critical publicly of Mark Zuckerberg, and has been since his inception.
That man looks like a raw goose,
right?
In a supermarket. He doesn't look right.
Just like, you guys seen Eraserhead? He's the baby in that, but it was kind of oozing at the sides, bit yellow. So Carmack does this thing called the keynote speech every year. So Facebook have a series of digital like speeches at events, and Carmack does a keynote speech. And he recently did one after the Metaverse event where he basically called it a half-baked idea. We don't have the technology in place to make it work. And Zuckerberg's vision of it is so vague and indistinct, it's kind of impossible to implement. Carmack is there.
So this is the thing. I don't understand even what it is. It's just them kind of being like, we've made The Sims, but we want it to be real life. And Snoop Dogg has a house in it.
Do you know
Big news.
Do you know the game Second Life?
I remember that, yeah.
You know of it.
I know, I didn't even know what it looks like, but I know what it is.
Second Life is an early version of the metaverse where like it's an open source thing where you can do whatever you want with it. The metaverse is that, but you interact with it with a VR headset, and it's more integrated with your daily life, and presumably at some point will then go even further when Neuralink technology comes in. Again, just want to make this very clear. I am not an expert on any of these things. I am merely a science fiction nerd who likes to keep up to date with technology news.
If you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
The thing with the metaverse, though, is that surely there has to be a level of worry that every day we move further from God. No, every day we just sort of... Every day, well, I mean, kinda. I'm not a religious man, but kinda. The thing is that every day we just seem to be, when you have an entire population that's already transfixed day after day into its phone screens, is the world going into a fake world really the way we want to go? Is that what we need right now as a society, or shouldn't we be trying our hardest to claw it back and to get people back into face-to-face human interaction?
Personally, I'm actively clawing it back and sort of doing things like leaving my phone at home and not looking at it before I go to bed and stuff like that. But that little thing, I've done that for the past 3 days for the first time in too long. And then the past 3 days, when I've woken up and throughout the day, I just feel very nice, and I've got nice energy levels, and I just feel very light. And I have sort of silly conversations with strangers. It's quite nice. It sounds a bit weird, but I feel a looseness that I haven't felt in so long, and it's just from not looking at my phone. And I just want to just keep doing that. I want to keep not looking at my phone.
Inspirational.
Yeah, no. In all seriousness, I think I'll look back on like my teenage and my early adult life as one where I was quite lost, and for sake of discourse, I suffer from general anxiety disorder. Everyone in the world suffers from anxiety, but obviously different things. But I say drinking beer, but I think a lot of that anxiety was exasperated significantly through social media use, and not necessarily how I was being perceived on social media, more so how it had such a strong prevalence in my life and how it changed about the way I thought about things. I think
it makes you think nothing about some things. I think it stops you thinking.
It replaces thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, it replaces the interior monologue with, I've had dreams where I'm scrolling before.
I have never had that, and I feel scared. And we should go for a walk and just have some hot chocolate.
Just touch grass, man. You know, have a.
Let's do some grounding. Let's take our socks off.
Yes, please. Sounds lovely. The actually though that excuse me. If I
don't excuse you.
That is a Louis C.K. bit though. Like I know he like did some stuff or whatever, but like I remember there was a bit where he said like looking at your phone has replaced being a person. Like you should just. I remember it was on Conan, and he said, when you just sit there and be a person, it feels good, and you have thoughts, and you just kind of go and there's a hum to your life, and I completely agree with that.
Moving on from the sex offender.
Well, I was going to say that I think that the whole reason that if people want to go back and just listen to my opening sort of speech when I first started this podcast, my first ever video, I talked about how Gina Carano had been fired from The Mandalorian and how that was a sort of, not like the thing to sort of make me rise up, but the latest in a very small trickling effect of little errors that really annoyed me and made me think, no, okay, I've got to sort of do my own part in all of this, because I think that it's a very famous maxim, but obviously all that's required for the coming of evil is for good men to do nothing. And I think that social media, Gina Carano would not have been fired from The Mandalorian without social media.
Yeah.
Because the average person before that would maybe be a bit annoyed by what she said, and they discuss it with their families around the dinner table. Or even that. Yeah. But the thing is that because this is what happens, social media whips up a whirlwind, you get campaigns, you get the ordinary people, just which I'm all for giving power to, but at the end of the day, it feels immoral because it's like they don't know her. They don't know her on an individual level. And as I said on my my own podcast when I first started it, for example, say I were to go on to become rich and famous, probably ain't going to happen, but say it does, right?
You got to get that CEO grind set in, man.
Stop the negative thinking. Just get on with it. Just enjoy your life.
I am.
Yes,
thank you.
There you go. Affirmations, lads.
Well, no, all I was going to say though was that if I were to become hugely magnificent and have a big old platform and everything,
100-foot tall, covered in gold and gems.
I mean, that's me now, but that's besides the point. I was going to say
why this place is so cramped.
Because I'm a miser. Anyway, I was just going to say that, and then for someone who's never met me at the other side of the world, to think all of a sudden from one sentence they knew everything about me and decided that they were the arbiter of punishment and revenge over my entire life, and that they could start some little Twitter campaign and decide that actually that guy deserves to lose his job. It's absolutely absurd.
My parents like to say, you're not the worst thing you've ever done.
No.
And, that's I think, very antithetical to a lot of... I'll come out and say it. I don't really believe in, like, cancel culture. I don't think it
exists.
Yeah, I think...
I thought you were going to say I don't agree with it, but are you saying you just...
I think the way in which it's typically portrayed in that people cancel individuals and they're just banished from society.
I know people who have been cancelled and killed themselves. Personally, I know someone that happened to.
That's awful.
It's terrible. And because of that, I think none of these neckbeards on the internet have any right to really just do what they do. But then it is everyone's responsibility for letting that flail out of control. And I honestly think if someone calls you a name, we get taught it as children. It's like sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. Like, why does anyone, if someone doesn't like you, tough shit. Like, I like me. If you don't like me, sorry fella, like, I don't care what you think.
A lot of people...
I would like people to just people should just cultivate that. We got taught that as children.
But that's the thing, though. A lot of people are told that as kids, but they don't internalize the ability to.
Well, we don't have a culture that allows people to internalize that feeling of I am the authority on my life, and the only
I have
acceptance.
autonomy over.
I have autonomy
where,
over what I want and where I'm going, and I, at the end of the day, am in charge of how I fucking feel about this, and I give myself permission to get on top of my shit and just be like, the only opinion that really does matter is the one with yourself.
Your own, yeah.
But like, there aren't tools in place for people to have that.
Well, I think that sort of brings us to a whole sort of what I was talking about with Bo Burnham earlier, and how the world has changed. How we don't have the tools and the context in place quite yet to show kids or to teach kids how to separate themselves from the madness of the online, you know.
Well, it's still, there are people.
I think we do, and it's very simple. It's that you shouldn't go online if you're a child. You shouldn't. Maybe you should go on YouTube, but even then, my little cousins, like, we will go do mad things. Like, we'll go skiing, and it'll be an amazing experience, and you'll be there in the moment. But I can see in, like, my 11-year-old cousin's eyes that if I ask him, is this cool? And I've done this, I remember this. And he went, yeah, this is pretty cool. And I kind of know that he just wants to go back to the hotel room and watch endless YouTube. And I remember that. And I remember that feeling and kind of going, what the fuck? Because I remember when he was a toddler and he'd be on a tablet, and it is just that.
Well, the thing about that as well is that the child doesn't pay for the tablet.
No.
And so they have access to basically something free.
Yes.
It is a free form of addiction.
Yeah.
The kids can just go on the tablet and or the iPhone or whatever, or whatever it's on.
Yeah.
And they can just type in what they want to watch, or get the mum and dad to type it in.
Well, did you remember the whole Elsagate thing that happened a couple of years ago?
No, not at all.
So, long story short, a bunch of production companies across the world, and by production companies I do mean like 3 or 4 friends who noticed a flaw in YouTube's algorithm systems. They realised that if you make content for kids that was easily made and could be replicated en masse, which this isn't. Thanks, Josh. I've been watching my swears, but
sorry,
you over here.
went through a bit of a hard time with it.
Oh, divorcee Josh eating his Danish.
Yep.
No comment, Your Honour. Yeah. Carry on.
Anyway, right. So, yeah. Long story short, it was a bunch of like literally hundreds of thousands of videos were made where like adults would dress up as like Elsa from Frozen and Spider-Man, and just play out these bizarre little like comedy skits. And there was also like animations which were literally made by algorithms because they realized a bunch of kids are just go for it. Josh just asked if he could have another beer, and I said that's okay.
Which you can crack it open into the mic, let them know we're having a good time.
I mean,
no, I've still got half a can actually.
Can we pause this? I really need to go for a wee.
Yes, okay, we can pause it.
Pee, and then Luca and I just keep talking.
Because he's stood at the... Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we're straight back into it. Sorry, we just had a...
So, Israel, the West Bank.
We had the toilet break, ladies and gentlemen.
We ordered some Palestinian chicken, and it was muy bien.
I disavow. Right, now, moving on. So, we were just obviously talking about something to do with digital technology. I don't remember. That was about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. We could have just listened back.
We totally could have done. But we're past that point now. We're way past that point. So, okay, go on, someone kick the ball rolling.
Right.
Algorithms are really weird, and they change them all the time.
That's good. Right, algorithms.
Yeah, they change them every couple of months, so then there's no way to actually like figure out what the hell is going on.
Do you remember a couple of years ago when Facebook had these 2 black box AIs, which ended up communicating with one another? They had to shut it down because they weren't sure about what they were talking about or how they were talking to each other.
The AIs were talking to each other?
Yeah, the AIs, they had 2 separate AIs on one system which were talking to one another. They didn't know what they were talking about, or because they couldn't read the language.
So they're just like, I guess just unplug them now. Just,
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's
I want to laugh, but I'm also a bit worried.
Yeah. That is a bit Terminator-esque,
right?
isn't it?
Yeah, it's...
But the AI were like, Because they were like, let's make up a language these fucking dumb monkeys can't understand. Is that kind of what was happening?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they went that far,
Yeah,
but
they probably weren't doing that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I was just going to say, just because it's something
There's a
that...
bit of fluff in your chin. I got it.
Oh, that's actually just my stubble, but which is not impressive. But anyway, the I'm really conscious of my beard.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I do have something to say on this sort of topic.
All right, well, go on.
Go.
So, as a species, we've kind of beaten chess.
by which I mean there are now AI which you can find online, chess.com, which can beat any human on the planet at chess.
Even the Russians.
Even the Russians. Since the mid-90s.
Everyone knows historically, to be good at chess, you have to have suffered a lot. And no one has suffered like the Russians.
Or the AI.
Or the AI.
All the AI.
Yeah. The two antagonists in every American film from the 80s.
Droid right.
Droids and Russians.
So the maximum, I can't remember the exact name of the level for measuring how good you are at chess, what the actual type for it is, but the maximum level on chess.com's chess engine is 3,200. And Magnus Carlsen, who is one of the world's best chess players, has about 2,500. That's like his maximum level. So no matter what he does in chess, the chess engine will always beat him. And he was born basically around the time when chess beat every human player on the planet. It was Garry Kasparov, which was beaten by Blue Mind, I think it's called. I probably misremember
Is that the name of an AI?
That's the name of the AI, yeah, the Blue Mind machine. He was beaten in a chess game, and we've only got better at making chess AI than that. Now, Magnus Carlsen has always
Are they like
stated...
friendly AI you can like have a nice time with? Or...
Yeah, are there AI who would let you win to impress a mate?
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing,
are there
yeah.
AI who are like flirting with another AI and they're like, I'll be a good guy and I'll let this
I'll be a
monkey
wingman.
win.
I'll be your wingman AI.
Well, yeah,
Well,
that's
they just want to look like a beta nice AI.
If you've ever beaten...
if that's up the other AI.
Just
street,
think,
I don't know.
if you've ever beaten a computer at chess...
Are there like alpha AIs who are just like really angry and like,
woo? I mean, yeah, that's just the chess engine
That's
at
just
its
the
maximum power, which I've played many times, and it's terrifying how quickly it can beat you. Because, I'm not a chess expert,
in minutes?
not at all.
How long are we talking?
Like, in 4 moves most of the time.
Really?
What?
Yeah,
You lose
seriously.
in 4 moves?
Yeah, I mean...
Mate, joke's on them, I could lose in one.
That's
Just
not-
one move, checkmate. But I was going to say that Carlsen has...
I'll tell you who I want to play chess with. That girl with the nice eyes and that thing that I didn't watch.
What an outstanding contribution to the
That
podcast, John.
Netflix thing.
What, Queen's Gambit?
Yeah,
Right,
that one,
we've
yeah.
obviously lost all momentum for serious conversation.
Right,
at this
okay,
point.
well, thank you all for coming.
No. I'm gonna finish my goddamn point. It's relevant. All right, it's poignant.
I think I'll let him.
Billy,
Yeah. Okay.
calm down, have a bit of San Miguel.
Right, I'm having
Compose your thoughts.
some...
This podcast, ladies and gentlemen, sponsored by San Miguel, which it wasn't really, but if anyone wants to
Does anyone
sponsor
know
me,
what that girl's called in the Queen's
Anya
Gambit?
Taylor-Joyce. Right, so... Magnus Carlsen was quite literally born too late to beat the computers at chess.
Billy's like, I will get this point out if it kills you both.
Don't tempt me. I'm getting there. So,
Right, okay, yeah.
he was born
I
too
just
late
think her weird eyes are dreamy, that's all.
Billy,
to
your point.
beat the computers at chess.
Back away from the mic, Josh.
I have
he's
to
all-
compensate because I'm a quieter man.
But he's always said that this doesn't bother him because he plays chess to compete against people and to play with an opponent, not a machine designed to beat you immediately.
So he treats it like a performance, which
Yeah.
is lovely.
100%.
Yeah.
That, I think, will become more and more of the prevailing attitude towards art and culture and just human society.
I mean, I hate to break it to you, but that completely is the case, and it's amazing because it's something you can't explain, and it really is about how you're feeling when you're performing. And
It's not
lovely. It's
how
great.
good can we get at something.
Yeah.
It's what can this person do with their limited tool set,
Yeah.
right? That's what makes stuff interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I'm an artsy fartsy kind of guy. I like.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, you got that vibe. That's fair enough, to be honest. Can't dispute that.
Me too.
When I'm looking at like a painting, I'm not looking at what the painting is. I'm looking at what this person has done, and if we get
With what they had
with what they
available to
had
them.
available to them, or what they chose to have available to them, and
Yeah, I like finger painting too.
yeah,
What's
no,
of
it's
it?
cool as hell, right? That I think will be increasingly the model of which we look at and appreciate, and even like relate to one another with, because there will come a point. Well, there may come a point where we've got an algorithm that can just create the best art imaginable, objectively. Like, that ticks all the boxes. It's the most powerful movie.
It's the Mona Lisa of the 21st century.
Yeah. And already artists are incorporating AI into art. And I'm not talking about like NFTs and stuff like that. I'm talking about literally using the art to create stuff. In fact, fun little anecdote, a friend of mine is friends with an artist whom I won't name for privacy reasons, but is a very popular artist who works with AI quite frequently. And they had a showing at the Tate Modern. And I was working in a kind of awful party bar at the time. And they came in
Why was it awful?
because it was full of flies. It was unhygienic,
Yeah.
and it's
Great.
Shut up.
South Northism, I'll have you know. And
I thought you were going to say something like the people were lame, but instead it's that there were flies.
it was just
Again, outstanding contribution, Josh.
anyway. Point is this artist arrived at the bar, complained about AI for about an hour and a half, vomited, looked at the vomit and said, "Oh look, a computer made that," and we had to drag him out.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I believe
It was quite funny, but also quite weird because I had to go, yeah, this person's a big artist. I'm friends with someone who's friends with them. That's kind of wild. Oh well.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I suppose the only other thing, which we're going to talk about now, because I'm the chief podcaster and I've decided,
Sure.
is digital technology. Let's talk about the dating apps, just to sort of close it all off
We've
with.
got 10 minutes left.
We have
Let's
got
have a
10
good go,
minutes,
yeah.
so let's all...
It's more like 8 minutes.
Who's counting?
Me.
We'll stop it.
No.
Well, that's me told.
So what we've realised is that Billy's actually an AI. He's not-
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? I've
I'm
been fooling
fighting
you.
the, This is me
Oh my
fighting the
God.
algorithm, ladies and gents.
Oh, there is actually I will talk about dating in just a second, but there is.
Oh, you're talking about the creepy like girl lady robot who's an AI who goes on the talk shows and is like, "Hello."
No, I'm not talking about Sophie. There is
yeah. Sophie's terrifying.
Sophie's terrifying,
Yeah.
but there is a new text-speech system called. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but I'll find it later. Basically, they can get text-to-speech, like Microsoft Sam, to emote now. So they can get it to speak angrily, they can get it to speak quietly, they can get it to emphasize certain words.
Quietly.
Yeah,
Like Josh.
Like Josh.
But they have deep fakes, so they have everything now.
Yeah,
They
but
probably have PlayStation in Area 51. That's all they're working on. That's just where they make PlayStations.
How do you think the PS5 dual-core processing came from?
Area
Spaceships.
51, aliens. Yeah.
Aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah.
The dating apps.
Racist aliens make PlayStation.
Well, they're the only aliens out there, surely.
Absolutely, because, it's what,
The human race.
dating apps.
The only race that matters.
Good lord.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Yes. Rather. Anyway. No, the sort of dating app thing. Let's just sort of round off on that, because it's one of the other, I think, big pieces of digital technology from our age that has changed the game, as it were.
Yeah.
Josh, as our connoisseur on dating apps.
Well,
Your
I deleted all
input.
of mine like a month ago. I did some sort of like, I just sort of felt like happy, so I deleted them. To be honest, yeah.
That sounds and your life's been better since then.
Well, yeah.
Right, there we are. That's it, ladies and gents. That's that topic covered.
Yeah.
Delete your dating apps. But no, honestly, because can I tell you? I know this might sound really self-indulgent.
Yeah.
But it is something that I'd like to kind of share.
Yeah.
Because it's something I've and you're going to tell why it's self-indulgent immediately after I say these words. There is an Arthurian myth.
What's an Arthurian?
You know, it's in King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, there we go. I thought you were talking about aliens. So-
No.
Yeah.
What, is there an alien called Arthur?
I don't know. It just seems like, you know, when you like go on YouTube and there are people going, the Arthurians were giant.
What was that movie with? What was that awful movie with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg with the alien?
World's End.
Paul.
Yeah,
Oh,
Paul.
Paul.
That was it. Yeah, that movie
Although World's
sucked.
End did have aliens as well. I think.
Yeah, that was better though than Paul.
I actually think Paul was better.
Anyway, there's an Arthurian legend,
Yeah.
and it basically and Arthur and his knight Sir Gawain go around looking for. They basically come into this forest, and they get the road blocked to them by this shamanistic lady.
Yeah.
And she says you can only pass if you go out and find out what. I need you to come back with the answer to what a woman wants most in the entire world. And they're like, damn, that's a hard task. So they go out and they go from Pontefract to Cornwall to Kent to to Newcastle, and they have a look for all of these. They basically survey all the women, and they come back and their answers were some things like one woman says that she wants riches and status. And the other says that, well, what she really wants is a bloody good time. And you've got all these sorts of things. Anyway, but the answer, in the end, after me quartering it down to a bridge version, is that what a woman wants most in the world is the feeling of what it's like to fall in love for the very first time. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but if we hold it to be true, then what does the dating app do to that? It basically gives an opportunity to try and find that over and over and over again with a swipe after a swipe after a swipe. So the technology in a way has found...
Well, I don't subscribe to the thing that people are as binary as like, I'm after true love or stuff. I think people like... Lots of people pretend they do that, but then subconsciously they do loads of other things. So,
It can be true love, but it will never be quite as true as that first moment. So they're constantly chasing that first moment over and over again. And this is why...
where did you stumble across this idea?
It's a long story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you after. But
I love not hearing things on a podcast.
Yeah. I'd really like to hear now. Like,
Well, no, it was just it was from another podcast that I'll probably just tag in the video or something. But yeah, it's but I think it's interesting. I think it might not have the whole answer, but it has some level of merit to it.
I was gonna say just sort of on that vibe.
Sure.
Have you heard of the Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa?
Never once.
Right. So this is my official book recommendation. It is a book. It's the fictional diary of a character called Bernardo Soares. Pessoa he's probably the most popular Portuguese writer of all time, and he was really interesting in that he would write not under pseudonyms but heteronyms, so characters who had their own biography and how that biography affected the way they wrote fiction.
Like Lemony Snicket.
Like Lemony Snicket, yeah, but like, more poetry and a bit more mad. And Bernardo Soares was the closest to Pessoa, and it's essentially just a series of like thoughts and ideas of a man slowly dying of alcoholism in Lisbon, as Fernando Pessoa,
people in Lisbon do.
as Fernando
I
Pessoa
spent a lot of
was.
time doing that in Lisbon. I went on holiday to do that.
I've never been to Lisbon.
There's
A pint is €1, lads.
Bargain. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amiable Arguments trip to Lisbon. Here we go. So Anyway, there's a line in that.
You
Which
can
is,
also go to Lisbon and they have restaurants where you can point at a fish and go, I want to eat that one, and
I mean,
they'll
that's
get
just-
it.
that's most of Spain.
Which is not Lisbon.
No, but like most of the Spanish-speaking, part of Europe.
Which
They
is
speak
very-
Portuguese, mate.
Yeah, Portuguese and Spanish.
It's so ominous. We only did it once just for a laugh because there was just one left in the tank and he was a big boy. And he had this sort of dumb look in his face. And we called him Jeffrey and we ate him. And that's what we did in Lisbon.
Oh my God, that's how Epstein died. Anyway,
I really recommend going there and going to the fish tanks and being like,
To confirm, ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Epstein absolutely killed himself.
I don't want the Clintons to kill me.
Exactly. Right, carry on.
Right, anyway.
Let's round this baby off.
My point I was making is that there is a line in that in which
Bernardo Soares, contemplate. Most of the book is him contemplating what he is and what other people are and how do we relate to one another. And one of his conclusions, about halfway through, is that a human is a well looking up at the night sky. And that, I think, is the best summary, the best metaphor, at least, that I'm aware of the intrinsic value of humans. And I think that's something a algorithm or dating app or social media
platform will never be able to fully articulate, capture.
But why is a human a well looking up at the night?
Because we've got depth and we're looking up at infinite possibilities.
I thought it was something about being able to be reined in. Or
I thought it was because we're full of water.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time I try bring a little bit of class up in here.
Right,
but,
no, we won't have any of that on this podcast. Anyway, right, Josh, any final thoughts to close us out on?
When is the next season of the thing with the girl playing chess coming out?
Right, well, you can Google that afterwards. Yeah. Anyway, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you sincerely. I know that this podcast has been a slight change of pace, let's put it that way. But on a personal level, I want to just openly say to you all what a delight it's been to have two great gents with me in the actual studio just talking this out. Hopefully, it sets a precedent. And these won't be the last two gentlemen that are in the studio, and I would gladly welcome them back again.
Oh, charmer.
Chin.
Chin indeed.
Yeah.
The other thing is just to say that thank you again to Irina. I will display her glorious artwork all over this podcast unashamedly because it's brilliant. And
I thought it was cool independent of him saying anything.
What?
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't it that the teapot artwork?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, he thinks it's cool. Right, Billy thinks it's cool.
That thing rocks. Well done.
Right, thank you. Right, full endorsement from the entire panel today as regards to the artwork. And
why did you guys look at me like I said something nasty?
Because I didn't know what
I
you
didn't
said.
understand what you said.
I said it looks good.
Yeah, and I just assumed that something coming out of your mouth must have been nasty.
No, why?
Because
I just had a great bit about how humans are wells looking up at the night sky, and you're like, oh, Billy's being... Right, I'm never coming on this podcast again.
Oh dear. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to end. I'll leave all the social medias.
Bring
and
Billy back, don't worry.
the things in the description down below, and I am going to end this podcast if it kills me. So until then, goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.
Auf Wiedersehen!
I don't have a closing statement.
Goodbye.